Our community is going to tell this story. Our speakers are these readers behind me, and they will be reading you the names, a one-sentence eulogy, and the age of each person who has been executed since 1984. And you will hear more about that with a lovely introduction. Before then, we're going to hear a little bit more poetry and a little bit more song. I do want to tell you that we will be marching from here should you want to march. There will also be shuttles from here to take you to the visit where we will assemble at the end of the march. We'll tell you more about that at the end of the program. I do want to offer a little. We have to change the story about the death penalty in North Carolina. And that's what we're doing today. Today we are talking about what is beyond executions. All these people, and now all of you, are beyond executions. Beyond the impact of one state-sanctioned murder of one individual, of which you see all their names here during the modern era. The impact of the death penalty is beyond these 43 people. And we are talking about what...
First, let me say that it's a privilege and an honor to be here today, representing these individuals, these human beings that lost their lives to execution. As my son lost his life in ours. As we remember and mourn those killed unnecessarily by the state, we also remember and mourn all who have lost their lives to violence. Let's take a moment of silence to remember those victims of homicide, some of whom were our loved ones.
Thank you, Audrey. Next, we're going to hear a song sung by Kristen Stapleford. I'll let her say just a word about it if she would like to. But we'll tell you that Kristen is the niece of Ernest Baston. You will see his name on a sign as well.
Thank you, Noel. My Uncle Ernest was on North Carolina death row from 1993 until December 2002. He was executed on December 6, 2002. And I would like to share one of his favorite songs that he and the men sang on the road. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious
Some people would try to persuade you that today's death penalty is different from the past, but the truth is that the word modern is a farce. The death penalty remains deeply rooted in racism. It continues to be inhumane and rife with injustice, and now, as ever, it adds nothing to our state except violence and grief, which ripples outward to more people than any of us can imagine. Many of our name readers here today understand that grief well. These people that our state killed were their family members, their friends, their pen pals, their clients. Two of our readers, Ed Chapman and Henry McCullum, were sentenced to death for crimes they did not commit, and during the years they spent on death row, several of their friends were executed. They are among the innocent people who have been harmed by the death penalty. It's a harm that extends far beyond executions and can never be repaired. May the reading of these 43 names serve as a reminder and a call to action. We must never allow another execution in North Carolina.
Test.
Ernest Bateson, my uncle. He served as a worship leaderist in the prison and mentored other men on death row. He also urged his family and friends to continue the fight against the death penalty, inspiring the creation of the Capital Restorative Justice Project, executed at 50 years old. Today, I remember my uncle on his legacy.
Michael McDougall. He became a supervisor at a company that sold fire hydrants, executed at 36 years old. Philip Engel. He had 2 young daughters and a sister who loved him dearly. Executed at 34 years old. Sammy Crystal Perkins. He was a Duke basketball fan. Executed at 51 years old. Frank Chandler. He was a voracious reader who especially enjoyed sci-fi and history. Executed at 32 years old.
Quentin Jones started as a pen pal, became a friend. He learned sign language as a child because he had a cousin whose hearing was impaired. Executed at 34 years old.
Glenn Abel Chapman, 13 or 15 years on North Carolina's death row before I was exonerated. My friends on death row, Ricky Lee Sanders, a.k.a. the Jester, and I thought we needed to help him in our situations. Executed at 38 years old, Joseph Bates, a.k.a. Grandpa Mullet. Executed at 35 years old. Kenneth Boyle, the gentle giant. Soft, quiet, talking, man with all the answers. executed at 57 years old.
My name is Henry Lee McCullen. I was on North Carolina death row for 30 years. David Junior Brown, he was a jazz old guy and a mental tulip. And on the outside, he was a DJ for his friends, executed at 51 years old. David Junior Ward, he was down to earth and a joker. We call him Dog. He could make you laugh, executed at 39 years old. Robert Line, I call him Hassan, his Muslim name. He was a big, joyful kid at heart and liked to play around, executed at 31 years old. Mike Sesson, he was a graduate of Sanders High School in Raleigh, executed at 34 years old.
Stephen McCone, my client, he drew and painted beautiful still lifes and landscapes, executed at 35 years old. Elias Siriani, he was a professional singer who once performed for the King of Jordan, executed at 67 years old.
Joseph Timmy Keel, my client. He was an entertaining storyteller who loved his son Patrick, executed at 39 years old.
My clients, Clifton Allen White. He would always end our visits with, "Hey, call me a cab." To this day, whenever I end the meeting with a client, I always say, "I'll call you a cab." He was executed at 43 years old. Earl Richmond. He took a lot of pride in being a role model, peacemaker, and stabilizing force for the men on death row, even until the very end of his life. Executed at 43 years old.
Harvey Lee Green. He became a member of Pullen Memorial Baptist Church while on death row and was a pen pal to several members of the youth group. Executed at 38 years old.
Arthur Boyd, a client of CDPL, he loved to laugh and enjoy painting. Executed at 53 years old. John Gardner, once owned the St. Bernard puppy. Executed at 34 years old. Desmond Carter, he had a close relationship with his family, and as a teenager he helped an elderly neighbor cutting grass and raking the leaves. Executed at 35 years old.
My name is Lynn Scott. My brother Jack Jones Jr. was executed in Arkansas on April 24th, 2017. And I read his name in his honor and the honor of the state of North Carolina where I am. James Hudson. He was a veteran who served in the Air Force during the Korean War. He was executed at 54 years old. Velma Barfield. She counseled and encouraged women who were confined near her death row cell, and they grieved her loss deeply. She was executed at 52 years old. Raymond Rousey. He loved peanut M&Ms. Executed at 32 years old. Charles Roach. His lawyers described him as soft-spoken and remarkably gentle. Executed at 30 years old.
John Root. On the day of his execution, he raised his shackled hands over his lawyer's head so he could hug her over her neck. executed at 27 years old. James Rich, he loved pizza with black olives, executed at 26 years old. John Daniels, as a child, he sang in the choir at Morning Glade AME Zion Church, executed at 46 years old. Henry Hunt, he converted to Catholicism in prison, executed at 58 years old.
I worked on the cases of these men trying to prevent their execution.
Days in jail for protesting his execution. He was an active member of the youth group at Gospel Light Baptist Church, executed at 36 years old.
I'm going to invite us to just take a couple of deep breaths. So taking this story, the remainder of our time inside this air-conditioned space will be filled with spoken word. Cradle to the Gurney of my friend, my team member, Nick Pullen. Following that, we'll have another song led by Ms. Lynn and Pastor Dewey. Then I'll close us out with some words. We'll have some time to mingle before we move on. Keep breathing, folks. I present to you Nick Corman, an award-winning spoken word artist who is debuting Cradle to Gurney right now.
So brothers and sisters, before I get into the piece, I just want to also make space for y'all to know that it's okay to interact with this poem. Poetry and spoken word is not, just meant to be, for golf and all that good stuff. This is what I like to call a bit of a contact sport. I got my good brother Reverend down here, so we like to do a little call and response. I like to know that I'm talking to people, and again, I am merely a vessel, and like each of these names, they are in this space with us. Like the folks that are currently in Central Prison right now on the road, they are with us, and each and every single person who has been unjustly executed, unjustly discriminated against, they are in this space with us. Every single one of those people. And I want to remind y'all of that, in this piece. And as we look beyond executions, I want us to remember, the words of Brian Stevenson, and that, we are more than the worst thing that, we have ever done. That's right. And we all have a story, and no one is beyond redemption. And, I just want to remind us of that.
I don't stop it, they may not be able to hear you.
Okay.
Y'all here in the back, we're gonna do mic check before Nick starts, we're gonna do mic check.
My skin is my sin, and it has associated me with a life of crime. My oppressors only associate my blackness with a life of crime. I went from the threats of Willie Lynch to America thinking I'd be the next Willie Horton. But there's no weekend passes from prejudice, so it made me feel that my life is less important. I was institutionalized before I came to prison. Because at school, I was never nourished or properly poured in. My problems were ignored, and teachers would treat cries for help as a disruption, and they would send me to the principal like he was the warden. So I had anger that was stored in a body that didn't know how to express it. Dealing with so much shame and pain, but never having the proper tools to suppress it. I was constantly being harassed by students, school resource officers, and other teachers, so whether I was in or out of class, I was constantly being tested. My suspension started to rack up, and if you looked up my records, I was doing Wilt Chamberlain numbers. It would be the middle of the school year, but I'm sitting at home like it's the summer. And if my parents did care, not once did they show it. In my home, love was shown through belts, insults, extension cords, wire hangers, and other toxic ways, so that's the only way I got to know it. I was never familiar with words of affirmations, vacations, or other kinds of family trips. In my home, our love language was broken bones, wilted backs, and busted lips. Growing up, that was my reality. Being abused at home and being over-policed at school while being followed around in stores made me feel like I had a genetic predisposition to criminality. I had the ambition to be a Howard or Harvard fellow, but I became another fatality of a system that had my denigration in its design. So just know that I am a result of the new Jim Crow, where the creation of the school to prison pipeline made me a casualty. And although my support system was there, they showed me a few things that I universally accept to be true. For one, our criminal punishment system serves as an English professor because they constantly hand out sentences. They see us as menaces to society because from the walls of San Quentin to the barbed wire fences of Central Prison here in Raleigh, the prison industrial complex has conditioned us to believe that we are only convicts who are not human beings that experience complexities and trauma. And to add on to that drama, these perverse politicians partner with these pernicious private prisons to treat these jails like colleges because they get paid off our admissions. And then in the same breath, they will argue that they're pro-life but still sentence us to death. See, I'm going to say that again. And in the same breath, they will argue that they're pro-life but still sentence us to death. See, in this country, our punishment can be a capital one, so I must ask America, what's in your wallet? Because death has never equated to justice, but that's still what you choose to call it. You never cared if I had an incompetent attorney. You never took the time to assess my situation, my background, or take the time to learn me. Because from the time I was born, you have brought strife into my life, and from my journey, from the cradle to the gurney, you never really wanted to believe in me or the promise of who I was supposed to be. So I was the rose that grew from concrete that never was allowed to truly blossom. So I need y'all to understand that lynching never died. It was simply plain possum. That's right.
Thank you, Nick. You did it again. Let's say that. Lynching never died.
Lynching never died.
It's simply plain possum.
It's simply plain possum.
Ms. Lynn and Pastor D are going to lead us and ain't gonna let nobody turn you around.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. No sisters.
Thank you. Our movement has needed this song, and I am so grateful for all three of you sharing music with us today, as I am just so moved by each of our leaders and the stories that they have shared. If you've been in the streets much for marches, you might have heard someone say, "Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like."
Yeah.
Show me what community looks like. This is what community looks like. Show me what healing looks like. This is what healing looks like. Show me what a future without death row looks like. This is what a future without death row looks like. You haven't heard data about how systemically racist the death penalty is. I can tell you that. A lot of people in this room can tell you that. You can go to our website, NCCADP.org, and learn that. If you're new to our movement and you haven't yet received an email from me, or maybe even two in the last week, please check in with Mandy back there and raise your hand. She will help you scan our QR code